And what I'm going to do today is use this book, a particular sequence from this book, which I really love. It's one of my favorite portions in the book, and it happens in the very first chapter, the very beginning of the book, right at the outset. What the author does there is he just takes a look at our present experience, and he comes to and he guides us to the conclusion of Advaita Vedanta, that you are Brahman, you are limitless existence, consciousness, bliss, just based on our present experience. He takes a close look at it and guides us step by step into that insight. And then he says at the end, okay, now you can open your Vedanta books and see what's said there. Exactly what you have understood now after the first few verses, what we have understood, what we have seen, that's exactly being said in those books. The whole of Advaita Vedanta, the central teaching is that you are Brahman. Tat Tvamasi, you are that. These are the central texts from, these are what are called Mahavakyas, the great sentences taken from the various Upanishads, which are the central texts of Vedanta, taken from there. And they represent the entire Vedantic teaching. Most famous of them all is the Chandogya Upanishad sentence, Tat Tvamasi, you are that. There's an ultimate reality, the nature of which is existence, consciousness, bliss, and you are that. There are other such sentences. They're all called Mahavakyas. Vakya means sentence, Maha means great. Great sentences, profound sentences, which sum up the entire teaching of Vedanta. There are other such sentences. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, we find Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. In the Aitareya Upanishad, we find Prajnanam Brahma. This very consciousness, this awareness itself is Brahman, the ultimate reality. In the Mandukya Upanishad, we find Ayam Atma Brahma. This very self is Brahman. And this is the teaching of Vedanta. This is what Vedanta tries to explain and show us the truth of that. And the claim is, if we were to see this as a reality, all our problems would be solved. All our problems would be solved. We would overcome suffering at a deep existential level, and we would attain to limitless fulfillment. This is basically the purpose of life according to Vedanta. The purpose of life, that we need to realize our real nature. But what this author does is, relying on nothing but experience, our present experience, and reason, he shows us this truth. See, there are other ways of doing it. One can say you believe in it and do these practices, and one day you will come to see this by the grace of God, maybe. That's one way of looking at it. Or another way of doing it might be that I'll show you how to sit and breathe and focus and do these meditative exercises, and one day you will have an extraordinary experience, extraordinary, not ordinary experience, which will show to you the truth of this. These are different ways. But here, we are not asked to believe anything at all. Not even the Upanishads, not even Vedanta. We are not even asked to practice anything at all. He starts off straight away by saying, take a close look. At what? At yourself, at your own experience of life. Which experience? Just our common experience, the experience we are having right now. You're sitting here and listening, just being myself. That's enough. And we'll take a close look at that and discover this tremendous truth about ourselves right here, right now, which is the promise of the Upanishads, the Vedanta and all of that. So that's why I like this sequence. Just 8 verses or so, one after another, looking at our present experience. At no point are we asked to believe anything, and a close look, attending to our experience and reasoning it through, using reason. At no point should we say that, that's not part of my experience, or I don't get that, I don't buy that. It's so argued with such force, simplicity and clarity, and pointing out. The whole thing is like a pointing out to something which is already there. So let's join this author who speaks to us across oceans of time and space, all the way from India, south of India, 700 years ago. And we'll relate to it immediately, our present experience sitting here in Berlin, in Germany, in the 21st century. So I'm going to read from Swamiji's translation, the original verses, but I will use English and sort of free translation of the Bengali translation into English so that we can move fast. In the third verse of the first chapter, 15 chapters, chapter 1, third verse. The first two verses are invocatory, a traditional introduction into a book. You bow down to the Guru, you bow down to God and ask for the blessings and so on. But the book starts with the third verse, and we're going to start there. And all we are going to do is from the third verse up to the 10th verse. So 8 verses, and that's all. That's all you need for enlightenment. No, not really. There's some little footnote there, fine print, but anyway. But it's a thrilling journey. So he starts off with a bang. I'll read the original Sanskrit and I'll translate everything. Don't let the Sanskrit worry you, but it's good to hear the sound of the original Sanskrit. Shabdasparshadayo vedya vaichitrya jagare prithak tato vibhakta tat samvid aikarupyanna bhidyate. He says, take a look at our experience. What is our experience? Oh, we see, we hear, just now. The thing to do in Vedanta is actually track it in our present experience. That's the beauty of Vedanta. We see right now colors, shapes. We hear, we smell, we taste, we touch, we think, we remember, we feel, we imagine, we desire, we hate, we love. So all of these are called our experiences, and it's going on all the time. Right now it's going on. So what? What are we supposed to see there? He says, notice one thing. All these experiences have a particular structure. They have a structure. What is the structure? It is consciousness or awareness plus an object. I am aware. I am seeing, but I'm aware. And when I'm hearing, notice, hearing and seeing, they're very different. They feel different. Seeing is this, hearing is this. And it feels different when you experience hearing, when you experience seeing. But one thing is common between seeing and hearing. And that is, I am aware. When I'm seeing, I'm aware. I'm using the words awareness and consciousness in a very general sense, indistinguishably. Just in the sense everybody can relate to. I'm aware. And I'm seeing. I'm aware and I'm hearing. Hearing and seeing are different. Why are they different? Well, the objects are different, first of all. The objects of seeing are many. And what are they? They are colors and shapes. The objects of hearing are many. What are they? Various kinds of sounds, noise, music. And they are different. And not only that, the experience of seeing and the experience of hearing are different. The instruments of seeing and the instruments of hearing are different. But one thing is common to seeing and hearing. In all our seeing, we see so many things. In all our seeing, I am aware. It's the same awareness who sees that person. It's the same awareness who sees this person. The same awareness which sees the blue of the sky and the green of the tree. Awareness is same. Blue is this person is different from that person. Blue is different from green. But awareness is the same. I claim it. I experienced it. I am the same one who experienced this. And so also in tasting, in touching, in smelling, our sensory experiences are tremendously varied. And all are changing. And all are different from each other. The objects of experience are different. They are changing. They are many and changing. The feel of each experience, the nature, the phenomenological, internal feel of each experience is different and changing. And yet, there is one thing common to all of them. They are all happening to awareness. They are all happening to consciousness. And that consciousness is common to all these objects of experience, all these experiences. In fact, I said at the beginning, all our experience has a common structure. And the structure is consciousness plus object is equal to experience. Consciousness plus object is equal to experience. Just stay with that and see that isn't that true? Isn't that true? Isn't that a good way of describing a general equation to capture all of our experience? Whatever experience we have, isn't it consciousness / awareness, whatever you call it, plus an object? It could be an external object like this. It could be a glass of water. It could be sound. It could be a taste or a touch. It could be a thought, a feeling, an emotion. They're all objects, and they are all experienced by consciousness. Now, as the objects, C, consciousness, plus O, object, is equal to E, experience. As the objects keep changing, the experience also keeps changing. But does the C, the consciousness, does it change? And he claims it doesn't. And he says that's what you claim to. You also feel, I am the same one. I am the same one who saw this person and the same one who is seeing that person. And the same one who ate a cookie or biscuit and the same one who tasted the tea or coffee. Same one. Cookie and biscuit are different. Tea and coffee are different. This person and that person are different. And the experiences are different. But I am the one. And what is that one? It has to be, the bare minimum is consciousness. Is that. It's constant. In fact, in all our seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, consciousness is constant. Awareness is constant. The I, the experiencing I, is constant. Not just all of this. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories, they come and go. They're also objects. They're also experiences. But the awareness, the consciousness is constant there. Not just that. Actions in speaking, in walking, in grasping, in working, in playing. So many experiences are going on. So many actions are going on. They are all experienced by consciousness. The actions are different. The context is different. Consciousness is common. Go further. He will show us. In waking, dreaming, sleeping, consciousness is common. That's the direction he's taking. Shabda sparshadayo vedya, the sounds, the touch, and etc. Sight and smell and taste. Vaichitrya, they are various. Who can deny? Our experiences are various, and the objects of experience are various. Jagare prithak, in our waking world, we have various objects of experience and various experiences. Tato vibhakta tat samvit. Other than that, distinguished from that, the consciousness which experiences them, aika rupyat na bhidyate, does not differ from that one nature, one constant nature. It's like the light which is shining here. And it reveals whatever you put here. You put chairs and tables, it will reveal the chair and table. You put people in there, it will reveal the people. People leave this room and it's an empty hall, it will reveal the empty hall. The light doesn't change with the objects which come and go. It just reveals them. Now that's the model he's taking. Think of consciousness, try to understand consciousness that way, and see, is it not a good fit to our experiences? And he says, this is the story of our lives. And then he goes on. You can doubt it also. Why not? Why don't you say consciousness? Consciousness can change. Yeah, experiences are many, objects are many, and my consciousness is also changing moment to moment. There's a whole philosophical debate, centuries old, between the non-dualist Vedantist and the mind-only school of Buddhism, Vijnanavada Yoga Achara. Consciousness is changing. It's arising, flashing, revealing its object, and disappearing. Another burst of consciousness comes. Why not? Well, there are many arguments, but just consider this. If consciousness is also changing, objects are changing, we can see. Experiences are changing, we can feel it. But consciousness itself is also changing. If you say that, the question will be, is that change in consciousness experienced or not experienced? If the change in consciousness is experienced or experienceable, then it becomes an object, it's no longer consciousness. And if it is not experienceable, if someone claims, no, consciousness is changing, but that change cannot be known, it cannot be experienced, then why talk about such a change? If, as a very ancient school of philosophy, powerful school of philosophy says, consciousness arises momentarily and disappears, moment to moment, flashes of consciousness. All right, consciousness arises, illumines its object, and disappears. So it must be discrete flashes of consciousness. And they say, yeah, it's discrete flashes, very fast, but discrete flashes of consciousness. If there are discrete flashes of consciousness, there must be a gap between the two. Is that gap knowable or unknown? If it is knowable, then consciousness must be illumining that. In that case, there is consciousness in that gap. There's not a flash arising and disappearance. It is continuous. If you say, no, there's a gap, but it is unknowable, then why speak about such a gap at all? What will establish such a gap? How would you know that there is such a gap? In that case also, consciousness is continuous. So it's like this, a lot of back and forth arguments. But anyway, he's taking that model. But this is not the only experience we have. As the day wears on and evening comes, we go to sleep. And this whole world disappears from your experience, from our experience. The whole world disappears. Even the fact that I'm lying down on the bed and sleeping, that disappears from my awareness. And a world of dreams arises. What happens there? Verse number 4. Tatha swapneatra vedyam tu na sthiram jagare sthiram tadbhedo tastayo samvid ekarupa na bhidyate. Now the world of dreams comes. And you experience people and places and activities in dreams. Dreams arise and disappear. And is there a clear difference between dreams and waking? That question arises. And he admits, yes, in certain sense, dreams are different from waking. Dreams are unstable. They come and disappear. The waking world is stable in the sense I keep coming back to the same waking world. So you're having pizza, and you want to go to, you say, I'm feeling sleepy, I'll have the rest for breakfast. You can put it in your fridge, and the next morning you can have cold pizza for breakfast. It'll still be there. The fridge will be there, the pizza also will be there, unless somebody else has got the pizza before. But you can't do that in a dream. You're dreaming and you're eating a pizza and you say it's time to wake up. Now, I'm joking, but now let me put the dream pizza in a dream fridge, and next time when I come back and dream, I'm going to take it out and eat it. That won't work. That world of dreams is gone. So that's one of the differences one might object between waking and dreaming. And there are many other differences. I'll come back to that. But he says here, the author says, my point is this. The same consciousness which illumined the waking is the same consciousness illumining the dreams also. You are the one, that same consciousness, that same awareness is also experiencing the various objects seen in the dream. Yes, they are imagined objects. They are unstable objects. Dream experiences may be different from waking. But it's the same consciousness. Consciousness is not different. It doesn't differ. Are we with the argument? It's a pretty simple argument. I who experience the waking, I am the one who is dreaming. That's all. Dreams are very different from waking. Even if we admit that, the consciousness is not different. It's the same consciousness. And notice the very interesting thing. In the dream, when we experience things in the dream, we are not experiencing this body which is lying on the bed and sleeping. We have phenomenologically, internally, we have completely lost track of this physical body. We seem to have another body, a dream body. In the dreams, we have a body. In this waking state, it's an interesting argument. In the waking state now, I might say that, yes, our experiences are continuously changing, but consciousness is constant. One might say, well, body is also constant throughout this waking world. Whatever we are doing embodied in this body. But in dream experiences, the body is not constant. This body you lose track of. You have no experience of this body internally, phenomenologically, subjectively. But you have a full-scale dream experience. Somebody said the difference between dreams and waking is dream is like a vague and imaginary, and waking is industrial grade reality. Industrial grade reality. There it doesn't feel like that, but anyway, consciousness is constant. But this body is, you lose track of it. It's a very interesting thing in the dream. That means we can conceive of, philosophically speaking, we can conceive of a continuity of my own subjective experience without reference to this body. That's a big step forward. We naturally think, I am this. Well, in dreams you don't do that. In dreams you act as, you have so many dream experiences, at no point do you refer to this body sleeping on the bed. So subjectively, remember, this is a subjective argument. The objective argument is different. The objective argument is, of course, you are the body, you're just lying there, and that is all the same. What you call dream is imagination going on in that body, in that brain. But that's already assuming that consciousness is being produced by that brain. I remember one of our Swamis in Calcutta University was giving a talk. In the deep sleep, the world is not there, the body is not there, even the mind comes to a stop. And a professor in the audience stood up indignantly and said, "What do you mean the body is not there? We can see that fellow sleeping and snoring." That's an objective approach. The professor is seeing it from outside. You're seeing the person sleeping and snoring. But what about the person himself or herself? They are not experiencing their body, or far less the snoring, sound sleep. So, in dreams, whatever is going on, one thing is constant, that consciousness continues. That same consciousness, it continues in the dream state also. And it experiences various objects in the dream. External world is not experienced, even body is not experienced. Certain dream objects are experienced, and the consciousness continues. It's the same consciousness. Just as an aside here, Vedanta often uses the dream metaphor or the dream example to explain things in the waking world, that it's like a dream. And there are objections against it. No, this is not like a dream. Many objections. Swami Nikhilanandaji, in his book on the Upanishads, in one volume where he talks about the Mandukya Upanishad, he translates and he comments on the Mandukya Upanishad and Mandukya Karika. There he has an appendix, objections to the dream argument and answers. I think he has collected 10 objections, which try to show that, no, waking is waking, dream is dream, dream is different, and waking is different. Waking is not like a dream. And he takes up those objections, and he gives such powerful replies, you'll get a creepy feeling at the end. You'll look around, whether this is a dream or reality, you'll feel shaken. There are many objections, like, for example, this is a public reality. We are all agreed, we are here in this room and listening to a lecture. But dream is individual. My dreams are only in my dreams. You don't dream my dreams. I don't dream your dreams. So dream and waking are not the same. One argument, you see the public reality argument, it's a joint reality. We are agreed upon. This is the real. So this is real and that's imagination. That's only in your head, and this is shared by all of us. What reply will you give? The answer is, aha, but in your dreams, you will find it's a shared public reality. Suppose in your dream, you're going out for a cup of coffee with a group of friends. All of them will see the table and the park and the cup of coffee, and all of them will enjoy and talk to each other. None of them will say, but there is no coffee because we are in a dream. It's only in your head. There's no coffee here. Nobody says like that. In the dream also, it feels like a shared reality. It's only when you wake up, you feel that it was in my head. Another argument, the industrial grade reality. Dreams are vague imagination, and waking reality is so solid. It's solid. But that does not feel like that in the dreams. It does not feel it's vague, must be a dream. No. It's quite real. And that stands to reason, because even this so-called solid industrial grade reality, any scientist, any doctor, any school kid today will tell you, you are not experiencing directly. The whole thing is being reconstructed in your brain. Like this, about 10 objections are taken up, and each one is cut down to show that logically there is no difference between dreams. Logically and psychologically, there's no difference between dreams and the waking state. But be that as it may, here the author is interested in one thing, only one. He says, give me this one agreement, let's move together on this one point. Whether you agree dreams are same as waking or dreams are fundamentally different from waking, this much would you doubt, would you agree that consciousness is the same? The one which experienced the waking world is the one, that consciousness, that awareness is experiencing the dream world. Okay. Now, next comes deep sleep. There's a state in our sleep where we are not aware of the external world, we are not having any dreams, just shut down, deep sleep. Similar to, for example, anesthesia, general anesthesia, where we do not experience anything. We don't see, hear, smell, taste, touch in the external world. We don't imagine anything in the mind. We don't think, we don't remember. Even that I am not experience anything, that is also not a thought in our mind. Even the sense of I, that also stops. Deep sleep. And here one might argue, where is your precious consciousness here? It disappears. There's no consciousness in deep sleep. Vedanta has this interesting argument that, no, there is consciousness in deep sleep. What is that argument? I remember many years ago in our Institute of Culture in Calcutta, and we have a big ashram there, there was a conference on the ancient Indian philosophies of consciousness and modern neuroscience. And the question came up about deep sleep. And the professor who was arguing, that was an American professor of Sankhya philosophy, an ancient system of Indian philosophy, Professor Larson. So he asked, we're not making any progress. The neuroscientists had a different view of deep sleep, and we had a different view of deep sleep. So this professor asked the neuroscientist, doctor, according to neuroscience, modern, at that time neuroscience, now neuroscience also has changed its view, but at that time, this was about 20 years ago, according to neuroscience, is there any consciousness in deep sleep? And the doctor gave a nuanced reply. He said, the way we understand and define consciousness, there is no consciousness in deep sleep. That has changed a little bit now. But anyway, there's no consciousness in deep sleep. And that professor, I remember, he replied, he said, here is the difference. According to Indian philosophy, some schools of Indian philosophy, Sankhya, Advaita, Vedanta, there is only consciousness in deep sleep. See, there's a difference. There is no consciousness in deep sleep, and there is only consciousness in deep sleep. These are two ways of understanding the same phenomenon. We are both talking about deep sleep. There's no consciousness. That seems common sense in deep sleep. But Advaita argues there is only consciousness in deep sleep, which is aware of this absence of objects. Remember what I said about experience. Experience is consciousness plus object is equal to experience. Now suppose you remove all the objects, absence of all the objects. Now you can say either there is no experience, or you can say the experience is of the absence of objects. Consciousness illumining the absence of objects, that's deep sleep. That's general anesthesia. Maybe coma. Although just day before yesterday I was reading a news report that it seems in certain large percentage of coma patients they're still conscious. Anyway, so this is another way of understanding deep sleep. Consciousness illumining the absence of objects. There's nothing to see. That does not mean consciousness is not gone. Consciousness is gone. Consciousness is still there and illumining that nothing to see. Deep sleep is not an absence of experience. It is an experience of absence. That's a nice way of putting it. Deep sleep is an experience of absence. Consciousness illumining blank, nothing. I gave a very nice example once. It just came to me. It was several years ago in an Indian university. We were talking about this, and like that they had this PowerPoint projection. So they had a camera, not a camera, a projector up from the ceiling, and the camera projects a powerful beam of light. And the beam, it's a focused beam of light. It comes like this and comes on the screen behind you. Now, if you look from the side, it seems like just like this is there, that is there, there is nothing here. But if you thrust your hand in the beam, your hand will shine white with that light. You know what I'm talking about. That beam of light is coming. You thrust your hand there, but if you take your hand away, it doesn't look like anything. Just look like the rest of the room. If there is no particles of dust or smoke in the room. Now what's happening? The light is there. The powerful white radiance from the projector is there, but you don't see it because there is no object to reflect that light. The space between the sun and the earth is full, is blazing with light, but it looks dark. It looks black. Why? Because there's no object passing through that sunlight. Like a comet, I give the example of a comet. The brilliant tail of the comet which we see, which we take pictures of and all that we see in NASA pictures and from telescopes. No, that comet doesn't have its internal lighting, that we are coming to the earth, switch on the lights, let's give them a show. No, it's a sun's light which is being reflected as the tail of the comet passes through between the sun and the earth, or sunlight illumines it. And we can see it in the night sky, blazing forth. Brilliant display. So when the comet is not there, that same light is still there. Similarly, when objects are not there, nothing to see, hear, smell, taste, touch, nothing to imagine, no imaginary objects, no objects coming from memory, no dream objects, nothing is there. Then there seems to be blank, nothing, but it's full of consciousness. The answer was, there is consciousness there. Verse number 5. Suptothitasya saushupta tamo bodho bhavet smritihi sacha avabuddha vishaya avabuddham tattadātamaha. When we wake up from deep sleep, we say, I have the experience of blankness. I went to sleep, I had dreams, and there was nothing. Now I'm awake. That there was nothing. How would you report that? Why do you report that? We should report logically, I was awake, I went to sleep, I had some dreams, now I'm awake again. But why do we feel that I slept peacefully? Some would say I inferred it. That's some philosophers, the Nyaya philosophers say we inferred it. They're masters at inference. But that's not true. If we look at our own experience, nobody wakes up and does a process of inference. One just feels, I had dreams and I had just blank. Every culture, every language, I'm sure German also has it, words for deep sleep. In English you have, I slept like a log. In Bengali we have, I'm ghumiye kada. I slept like mud. Why? Because you have to remember, Bengal is hotter than this, what we have now, and with 100% humidity. So when you go to sleep in such a temperature, when you wake up, you will feel like mud. Every culture has words for deep sleep, for the experience of dreamless sleep. Why? Surely it must be an experience also. It's not that no one experienced anything there. If it is an experience, remember, consciousness plus object is experience. So if it's deep sleep is an experience, consciousness must be experiencing something there. And what is that something? It's nothing. It's just an absence of something. He says, Tamo bodho bhavet smritihi. The darkness itself, illumined by consciousness, that itself is the experience of deep sleep. And there's a little bit of subtle argumentation here. The objection here would be, so in deep sleep the mind is silent? Mind doesn't work? No. There are no thoughts, no perceptions, no memories, no sense of ego. So no memory, it's all right, no memory. Then how do you remember it after waking up? You see the argument, counter-argument to what I am saying here. The counter-argument is, if you say that the mind was silent in deep sleep, The mind was switched off, let us say, in deep sleep. Memory is part of the mind. And so how could it be recorded that I was experiencing nothing, blankness? And there are answers to that. If anybody is interested, there are subtle arguments about it. You find it in books like Vedanta Sara. But anyway, this argument he has hinted when he used the term smriti. Smriti means memory. Sacha avabuddha vishaya. Deep sleep is something that is experienced. Avabuddham tat tadatamaha. What was experienced in deep sleep? Blankness, darkness, the absence of objects. That was experienced in deep sleep. Then the number. Point being, consciousness continues in deep sleep. Consciousness is constant, different from the objects, different from the experiences. In waking, consciousness is constant, same consciousness illumines our dreams, same consciousness illumines the deep sleep experience also. And again, just see whether it might sound strange, but is it a faithful description of our daily experience? He goes on. Sabodho vishayad bhinno na bodhat swapna bodhavat evam sthanatrayepyeka samvittadvaddinantare. He says that consciousness which illumines your deep sleep is different from the blankness of deep sleep. It is an illuminer of deep sleep, and it is the same as the consciousness which illumined your dreaming, and which is same as your consciousness which illumines your waking now. It continues even when the world is not experienced, body is not experienced, mind is not experienced. It continues, unflickering. In all three states, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, these are not states of consciousness, these are states of the mind. Waking is a particular state of the mind, dreaming is another state of the mind, and deep sleep is a kind of switched off, a subdued or dormant state of the mind, seed state they call it. In all three states, consciousness is constant. In all three states, there's one consciousness. And this is the story of one day. One day in our lives, this is how Advaita Vedanta sees it. Consciousness experiencing a waking world, consciousness experiencing dreams, consciousness experiencing the absence of the waking world and the absence of dreams. And then again, wake up. Then what happens? Thrilling, our day. This is our life. He says, what happens next day? Same thing. And the day after, same thing. You'll wake, you'll dream, you'll sleep. And more importantly, consciousness will shine. Somebody was asking me yesterday in informal context, so what happens after death? There are many theories. Religions have certain theories. Every religion has a certainly different description. But I said, one thing I can tell you for sure, and which you cannot doubt. After death, before death, one thing is constant. Consciousness will experience something. What it will experience, well, let's see. But you will be awareness experiencing something. That's what will continue after death. There is no other logical possibility. So I'm sure some of you are thinking, no, there is another logical possibility that you could not exist. Consciousness could not be there. Somebody said, from the materialist perspective, death is the end. Lights out. Your fancy consciousness theories are all gone. Body is dead, nervous system, brain is dead, and so death is the end of your consciousness, so-called consciousness. But that's again assuming that the brain and the nervous system are producing consciousness. There's a strong correlation between the activities of the neurons in the brain and our conscious experiences. There's a strong correlation. And I can also explain on the basis of what he is saying here, why that correlation is there. But the point I want to say here is, if the objection is brain is producing consciousness, what is the evidence? The evidence is the strong correlation. Whenever we have conscious experiences, there are particular parts of the brain light up. There's electrochemical activity. What is it? Axons firing electrical discharge, and then neurotransmitters are released and the receptors. Okay, so the electrochemical activity goes on, and that has strong, tight correlation. But correlation is not causation. Just because when there's a fire, a lot of firefighters are present in every fire. Did the firefighters cause the fire? Of course not. It's strong correlation. They talked about, I remember in our old statistics book, there was an example. In all the fatalities in the wars, all the soldiers were wearing trousers. So wearing trousers is the main cause of death in the war. No, it isn't. Just one-to-one correlation. Anyway, there's a deeper argument there, the hard problem of consciousness. So, brain is not producing consciousness. If your consciousness is constant throughout your day, objects keep changing, we can be fairly certain when the physical body dies, consciousness is still constant and some other experience will be generated. Then he concludes. What will happen then? Masabdho yuga kalpeshu gatagamyeshu nekadha nodeti nastametyeka samvid esha swayam prabha. Very poetic, sublime verse, one of my favorite verses in this book. As the months roll by, days, weeks and months, consciousness shines. As the years roll by, consciousness shines. And as the centuries and millennia roll by, consciousness is shining. You might say, no, dead. At most 100 years, 110 years. That body is dead. Consciousness is not dead. Then, Gatagamyeshu anekadha. Many such centuries and millennia and ages have come and gone. Consciousness, nodeti nastameti. This one shining sun of consciousness is ever there. It is not born with the birth of a body. It does not age with the aging of the body. It illumines, it experiences, it generates experiences. It does not die with the death of the body. It is not born every time we wake up. It does not disappear or gets diminished when we are dreaming, and does not disappear when we are in deep sleep. It is ever shining, not diminished nor increasing. The sun of consciousness neither rises nor sets. Self-luminous, it shines by itself. Then I'm going to, because of lack of time, I'm going to race through the next 3 verses. Give a little bit of time for some Q&A. Now he moves on. He says, one more thing. I've established your nature as one constant consciousness. Our nature is one constant consciousness. And this is the claim that we are constantly experiencing it. In fact, all experience is because of this constant consciousness. That's why experience is there. And if you said experience itself is life, then all our life is basically this consciousness experiencing things. That's all. And that's what we are. We are this awareness, this consciousness. Generally, we don't doubt this, but we generally say, yeah, I'm this body with awareness, with a mind and awareness. But here we are being asked to say that, to see that we are this awareness, this consciousness with a mind and body. Occasionally the body is not experienced. In dreams, this body is not experienced. In deep sleep, this body is not experienced. Mind, powerful argument. Even the mind is not experienced occasionally in deep sleep. In waking, the mind is experienced. In dreams, the mind is experienced. In deep sleep, the mind is not experienced. Yet, the thrust of the argument is you continue to exist and shine undiminished, unaffected by the disappearance, the occasional daily disappearance of the mind. You are not the body, not the mind. Even though the mind appears and the body appears, you can be happily embodied in the body. You can happily use the mind. But you are not it. You are not limited by the body, not limited by the mind. Powerful claims. And even more, the claim is it's already there. It's a fact. Take a look, see it. And then, this one limitless consciousness, never ending, ever shining, ever present, never absent consciousness is also the source of all value, fulfillment, joy. Because one might ask at this point, okay, suppose I grant all this, but what good is this to me? I am suffering because I am conscious. So all my sufferings are also due to my consciousness. So what good is all this? Answer. he gives two arguments, very tightly intellect arguments. I'll read out the verses 8 and 9 and give you the argument in gist. 8 and 9. Iyam atma paranandah parapremaspadam yataha mana bhuvam hi bhuyasam iti prematmanikshate. This very self is the source of greatest joy, because it is the object of greatest love. And nobody ever says that I should not exist. Everybody says I should continue to exist. And there we see that it is the source of greatest joy and love. What's the argument here? It's a weird way of thinking. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but we never think in that way. The thought behind this, the argument behind it is this. Whatever gives us happiness, we love, we like it. It could be a thing, it could be an activity, it could be a food, it could be a place, it could be a person, it could be a book, whatever it is. It could be Facebook likes. Whatever gives us happiness, joy, we like it, we love it. And we always want it to be there. If something is giving us joy, we like it and we want it to be there. If something stops giving us joy or does not give us joy or gives us pain, we don't like it and we want to get rid of it. It could be a person, a place, a thing, or whatever it is. And the same thing can be both. And one time it can be a source of joy and happiness, and after some time I'm bored with it. Again, place, person, thing, activity. So the logic is this. If it is a source of happiness, I love it, I want it, and I want to keep it. If it's a source of pain or unpleasant, then I dislike it. I don't love it. I want to get rid of it. Now reverse it. If there is something that I want to keep, it's something that I love. Otherwise, I won't want to keep it. It's something that I like. I love it. And if I like it or love it, the reason must be it gives me happiness. Now, the one thing that we always want to keep and never want to get rid of is our own self. I, me, myself. Nobody ever wants to die. Nobody ever wants to stop existing. I know what you're all thinking. What about suicide? Yes, but even suicide is always, it's because of some particular reason. Somebody has got a huge amount of debt. And I can't live with this anymore. I'm going to jump off. Luckily, you don't have high skyscrapers here. Manhattan is full of high skyscrapers and a lot of people with debt also. So I'm going to jump off and kill myself. Then somebody says, no, Biden comes and says, your debts are forgiven. Student loan forgiven. Oh, great. You're going to jump? What happened? No. Now I don't want to jump anymore. So I don't want to destroy myself. It was just the pressure which was making me do this. I always want to keep myself. Now what's the logic? If I always want to keep myself, then I'm always something that I love. And something that I always love is something that's always giving me happiness. So I, the self, which I want to preserve, must be an object of continuous love. And that must be because it is giving me continuous happiness. So the self is always a source of happiness. It needs thinking over. Now somebody might say, all right, my own existence you are saying is a source of happiness. I don't doubt it, but it's just a little happiness, not much. Much more happiness in the cookie and much more happiness in Facebook, social media. Myself is not the source of much happiness, little bit. No, he says, yourself, you yourself, this consciousness is the source of maximum happiness, unlimited happiness. How? He'll prove it. Another argument. 9th verse. Tat prematmathamanyatra naivam manyarthamatmani atas tat paramam tena paramanandatatmanaha. So what he says here is this. Here's another very strange piece of logic. It works like this. If you love something for the sake of something else, then that one is loved more than this one. I love, say mother, example is the mother loves the toys which her child plays with. So why is the toy loved? Because of the child. You love the toy because of the child. Now, which one is loved more, the toy or the child? It's a very strange mother who loves the toy more than the child. So if you love one thing for the sake of another, you love that other one more than the first one. Now, what is the thing which is loved for the sake of, everything is loved for the sake of one thing only, and that is the self. Whatever our conception of self, everything that we love in the world is because of this one. And I love this example. Somebody said, no, this is not right. I really love my job. This young man, he had a wonderful job in a multinational corporation. I love my job. Somebody asked him, must be a Vedanta teacher, so asked him, so you love the job or the money? No, I love the job. All right, in that case, you will have the job, you'll do the job, turn up and do the job, but you won't get the money. So, no. Then, if you're forced, one of the two, you don't have to do the job, you can keep the money. Or you can do the job, but you won't get the money. Which one will you choose? I'll choose the money. So, the job is loved for the sake of the money. Which one is loved more? Money. Then he was asked, so this money, you will get it, but you can't spend it. You can't spend it. No. I have to spend it. I have to spend money. I have to buy things for my family, for my kids and all of that. So I have to spend the money. You have an option. You can either have the money or the things which you will buy. And then with that money, I'll have the things which I can buy. What use is the money without those things? All right. You can have those things. You have those things, but they will not be for your family, just some random family. You can have all those things, and they'll go to some family. You say you want it for the family, for the kids and all. You'll go to some random family, but not to your family. No. I want it to go to my family. Job is loved for the money. Money is loved for what it can buy. Those things are loved for the sake of the family, and the family is my family. It's loved for the sake of the self. It's a relationship to the self. So what is loved for the sake of another, the other one is loved more than the first one. So money is loved more than the job. The things are loved more than the money. The family is loved more than the things. And my family. So I am loved more than the family. But what we love, that which gives us happiness. We love that more which gives us maximum happiness. We love the self the maximum. So it must be giving us maximum happiness. And therefore, the self is the source of maximal and continual happiness. This maximal and continual happiness in Vedanta is called Ananda, bliss. This ever-shining nature of yours, the Atman, is called Chit, consciousness, which we are talking about till now. And its never-changing nature, throughout waking, dreaming, sleeping, throughout all lifetimes it is there. That is called Sat, pure being. And then the 10th verse he concludes. Ittam satchid parananda atma yuktya tatha vidham param brahma tayos chaikyam shrutyante upadishyate. So this, the self which we are talking about till now, from the verse number 3 till now, 10th verse, this is pure being, pure consciousness and pure bliss. This is called Sat Chit Ananda, and we have ascertained this hopefully based only on our present experience and reasoning. Now he says, open your Upanishads, your Vedanta. This is called Param Brahma, the Supreme Brahman. And this is exactly what you found with your own experience. You have admitted it. Now admit that you are Brahman. There's no other way out. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Can we take 10-15 minutes extra? Yes. So I ran over the question answer time, but that's important. All right, questions. How do we do? You raise your hand and a microphone will go to you. Tell us your name and ask the question. Raise your hand. You have to be aggressive in raising your hand so that he can see you. Tell us your name and ask the question into the microphone.
Pranam Swamiji. My name is Vipin, and I work here from last 1 year. So I've been listening to your talks, and I have basically 2 questions. Okay, so my first question was about why would Vedanta take a leap and say that consciousness is reflected and not generated? So basically, if someday, let's say science with a lot of physics, let's say, is able to create a subtle body, somehow consciousness will immediately reflect.
Yes.
Now Vedanta will claim the reflection and not a generation.
Yes.
But science will say it's a generation.
Yes.
So my question is, how will Vedanta prove that it's a reflection and not generation?
Yes.
If the answer is that they are 2 different categories.
Yes.
So object cannot generate a subject.
Yes.
But then the objection is raised that if they are 2 different categories, then how are they interacting first?
Yes.
And second, if they are interacting, let's say if there are 2 different categories, then if a subjective reality can produce an objective illusion, why can't the objective reality produce a subjective illusion?
Good, very good questions, and they're good questions because I think you have carefully watched those talks. All the arguments and counter arguments which I would have raised, he has already raised them. If you say this, I will say this, and if you say that, I will say this other thing. Good. All right. Now, the hard problem of consciousness is an objection against the contention that the brain is producing consciousness. Physical thing like the brain cannot produce an entirely subjective experience, this consciousness itself, and that's the hard problem of consciousness. There is no, it's a difference in principle. In principle, you can't produce it. And if you just take a look at today, you have all these what are they called? The artificial intelligence. And they can do all sorts of things. They can write a poem for you, and they can paint a painting, and they are doing actually painting. I saw them, amazing work. They can do so many things. They display memory, they display creativity, things which we thought only human beings can do. Creativity, for example, decision making. You can drive a car in California. You go, the Google car, self-driving cars could driving it better than you maybe. So it can do everything that a human being is doing, including things until now we thought reserved only for human beings. We thought computers and machines will do only mechanical things, and the things like art and creativity are for human beings. It's the opposite now. The AI is telling you do the mechanical, go and sweep the floor, I will do all your office work for you. So it's doing all the white collar job and giving us the blue collar job back again. Anyway, except one thing, these machines are not conscious. And let's not get into the argument, how do you know? You ask, and I don't know better than you. Many of you are software people, computer science people. You know far better than me that there's no chance that these are conscious. No effort has gone into making them conscious, and nobody even knows how to approach the problem of making such programs conscious. No idea at all. Nobody has any idea. Or they have too many ideas, none of which. So this shows that an objective thing cannot give rise to the subject, so far as we can see. It's a category mistake. Object is revealed by consciousness. Now, in between, question will be then, how is this consciousness, we are talking about consciousness, waking, dreaming, sleeping, how is it operationalized? And Vedanta has an answer: reflected consciousness. Consciousness shines upon what is called the subtle body, the mind, and the mind becomes conscious, or it's like borrowing light. Then the moon borrows light from the sun and illumines the earth at night. It acts like a luminous body. As with children, we learned luminous bodies in the sky, sun, moon, stars, and then later we learned that the moon is not really a luminous body and borrows light. So the mind has this peculiar ability to borrow consciousness and act as if conscious. This is from a Vedantic perspective. So this is the background for his question. The subtle body is also an object. And he says, one day if science creates something analogous to a subtle body, will it not behave in a conscious way according to Vedanta? Will it not have a borrowed consciousness, reflected consciousness, according to Vedanta, according to your own philosophy? And we have to say, yes, it will. Because according to our philosophy, consciousness is all-pervading. The moment you have a suitable reflector, it will be reflected. You design a mirror, hold it in front of your face is bound to be reflected in that mirror. Then, now still I'm explaining his question. Then science can claim and will claim that subtle body which we produced, it has now produced, it has become conscious because it's displaying every characteristic of consciousness. If there's some way of testing, they will say that it is conscious. Now, answer it from a Vedantic perspective. Why do you say that it's a reflected consciousness? Why not say that artificial subtle body has produced consciousness? The answer is this: two objects. So the object can only produce another object. It cannot produce a subject. It will be a category mistake. Now again, it's still his question. So how are they, if they are the two different categories, consciousness and the subtle body is an object, how are they interacting? Because they are not two different categories. They are one category ultimately. Advaita Vedanta will say it's a case of superimposition. Even the subtle body, physical body, entire universe is an appearance in consciousness, and it's all consciousness through and through. So in principle, there's no problem of interaction between consciousness and a subtle body. At this point, this is the final step of the question. Why would you say that then it is only all consciousness? Why not say it is all matter? If it's all one reality, and it's all matter, and matter is producing consciousness, why not say that in principle? The answer to that is that we have, consciousness has what Vivekananda calls an internal validation. All we have access to is consciousness. And matter is an appearance in consciousness as far as all our data shows. All our data is to consciousness. Data is presented to consciousness. And data shows matter appears in consciousness, not the other way around. In fact, it's in principle impossible for matter to be fundamental and then be conscious also. Because matter isn't, what is matter? It's basically an appearance in consciousness. I have referred to that article by Galen Strawson in New York Times, Hard Problem of Matter. He says, why are we talking about the hard problem of consciousness? It's because we have convinced ourselves that somehow the brain is producing consciousness, but we can't explain how it is producing consciousness, hence hard problem of consciousness. But isn't it that even matter is appearing in consciousness? So consciousness is evident, it's always there. So we should rather ask what is matter and try to explain it. The real mystery is what is matter. Real mystery is not consciousness. Galen Strawson, he's half humorously, half seriously saying that. Let me see if I can put it in one sentence, my answer to your question. Because it is the answer to the final part of your question. You've built it up to a pyramid. The point of the pyramid being, why not say it is one thing? Why not just matter? Because matter is an appearance in consciousness. By all our experience and data shows that. Consciousness has an internal validation which matter does not. Matter depends on consciousness for validation. Therefore, I will say matter is secondary, consciousness is primary. Yeah. Are there? Yeah. So we'll come to that gentleman. You can ask the online question. Yeah. So, yeah.
There's this. This is a Zoom question from Karam Singh. He says, in this materialistic world, we cannot survive without money, at least to fulfill our basic needs. So what do we need to do to reach the state of Satchit Ananda, and how?
What does Vidyaranya say? He has not brought money into the equation at all. For Vidyaranya, money is something that appears in consciousness. And money and food and accommodation and all the things of life are necessary for the survival of the physical body. But all of that, money and the survival of the physical body, are also appearances in consciousness. The answer to him would be that, what do we need to reach the state of Satchidananda? That's what his question? Well, Satchidananda is not a state. Waking is a state, dreaming is a state, deep sleep is a state, life is a state, death is a state, and all these states appear and disappear to consciousness, in consciousness, and they are nothing but consciousness. Consciousness is not a state. It is the reality of all these states. How do we attain it? It's already attained. It's a fact. If you follow what Vidyaranya is saying, at no point, he's making the claim. You can dispute it at every point, but he's making the claim, at no point am I saying anything that's not already the case. It's already an established fact. And you just have to notice it. and then claim it that yes, this is a fact. This is what I am. It will solve your problems. When you try to live it from that perspective, your problems will be solved. If you live it from that perspective, you can't die. That consciousness doesn't die. You don't want anything from anything at all. You're ever fulfilled, because that consciousness itself is the source of the greatest and most and continuous happiness. So when you try to live with that perspective in this body and mind, you will be basically what's called in religion as a saint. Then we will begin to see this old idea of a spiritually perfect person, saint. It follows from this from this perspective. The gentleman there, he raised his hand. Raise your hand. You have to be aggressive. Yes, and we'll end with the lady there.
Pranam Swamiji. I'm Dr. Gautam Chakravarti. I'm a historian of the Cold War, so my question will descend a bit from this high.
Historian of the Cold War?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So, thank you. My question is about, you mentioned artificial intelligence. So as you know, in the humanities worldwide, we're branching towards artificial intelligence, AI, and digital humanities. So I'm also dabbling a bit with that. So that's where the question comes from.
Yes.
So the question is, if we look at how this entire programming to software to algorithms to artificial intelligence structures, let's call them, for want of a better word, structures, mega structures, servers, mega servers, the cloud. If we look at how this architecture was designed, consciously, unconsciously, mostly consciously, we see that it's a reflection of the relationship between the Jivatman and Paramatman, in a sense. I just would like your opinion on this, because
yes,
we see how individual algorithmic structures or algorithmic parts, let's say, are tied to the cloud. That's the model. At least that's the model which is evolving and has evolved today. Now, if we take this understanding to this, as you know, the US and Germany, all over the world, and China, there's discussion of mind-body continuum, there's discussion of machine-body continuum, and how there's this whole android philosophy, cybernetics. Cybernetics is very old. It's a Cold War thing from Rand Corporation. The point is, do you not see, therefore, the possibility that old relationship between the Jivatman and the Paramatman is also possible to reflect it in the mechanical machine world in that sense? Isn't the machine world following the quote-unquote original system? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good question. I have to think about that. But yes, I tend to use what you said. I tend to use it as an example to explain the Jivatman and Paramatman. Even the concept of a cosmic mind, it's called the Hiranyagarbha. So all minds linked together and illumined by consciousness. It's not the mind by itself. It's mind illumined by consciousness. That's called the cosmic mind. So we have an individual mind, and there are many individual minds, but imagine a consciousness which illumines all these individual minds linked together. That's called the cosmic mind, or you might call it the mind of God. In Vedanta, that's a concept. And it seems pretty well reflected in this modern paradigm. I mean, I'm sure nobody thought of Vedanta while designing this. This came through scientific research and technology, and technological development. But who knows what's working in our subconscious and what is being projected out in this. It's a really good example even for reincarnation. I give the example of if your laptop or your iPad is broken or outdated, you can throw it away. All your data is safe in the cloud, and then you download it again when you get a new iPad. That's exactly how the subtle body leaves an old physical body and then transmigrates to a new physical body. And that's a good example, actually. So I'll leave it at that. Very nice to meet you. You are a historian of the Cold War right here in Berlin. This is the place to be a historian of the Cold War. We were just we were there in Checkpoint Charlie, and we took a tour of the remnants of the Berlin Wall, the Tempelhof Airport, and it's now our old history. I guess kids don't read it anymore, but the Berlin airlift and all these are very dramatic moments and key moments in history. Yeah. All right. The last question there, that lady there.
My name is
Yes, go ahead.
My name is Christina. It's always said that we experience a reflection of consciousness, but if it's a reflection of consciousness, then it becomes dual. And is it explained like this because we are experience a dual world, and it is at the same time it is actually non-dual?
Yes. I'll pick up in the last part of your question. Are we experiencing a dual world, but it is actually non-dual? Correct. For example, in our dreams, in your own dream, you will see yourself and other people, and there'll be places, there'll be human beings, there might be pets, there might be sky and earth, and all of this is some activities going on. When you wake up, so it's a very dualistic means pluralistic world. There are people, there is nature, and there are maybe cities and things like that. Whatever you see in the waking world is reflected, is there in your dream. Very pluralistic world. But when we wake up, we realize all of that, the people and the pets and the sky and the earth and the cities, all of them were my mind. So with respect to the mind, that entire world is non-dual. There is no second thing in the dream apart from the dreaming mind. The dreaming mind is non-dual with respect to all the projections in the dream. Though in experience it is dualistic, it is pluralistic. Appears to be pluralistic, dualistic, but in reality is non-dual. That we have to always add, because experience itself requires duality. If there must be a subject and object for some kind of experience. But what Advaita Vedanta claims is, in reality it is non-dual. And it provides a basis for your dualistic experience. That's always there. In the question of reflected consciousness, is it not non-dual? Is it not dualistic? It seems to be, because reflected consciousness requires one pure consciousness, then an appearance of the mind, and then the pure consciousness being reflected in the mind, and then body and senses, and objects to be experienced, all of which seems multiplicity. Dualism. But when we realize all of them are appearing in that same consciousness, it is the same consciousness which appears as the subject and the object. From that perspective, it is all non-dual. And Vedanta says you are that consciousness. So you are the non-duality of this apparently dualistic world. All these they sound very abstract philosophical words, but they are, so intimate, so important to us. When we say something abstract like non-dual, what does it mean? It means the whole universe, everybody, all of us are one. Everybody here is one with you. We are not separate from anybody or anything. Even time and space are appearances in us, in that reality, and our real reality, so to speak. Vivekananda says this is the ground for all ethics. Why should I be good? Why should I do good to others? It is because we are the others. And this is not like a slogan. Huh? It is just fact from an Advaitic perspective. This is the beauty of it. Living in the apparently dualistic world, which is really non-dualistic. If it was not really non-dualistic, it would be a terrible struggle. If it's really non-dualistic, then it's true that we cannot die. It's true that they are all one with us. It's true that we are ever fulfilled. And then you can live here much better than what we were living at, taking this dualism to be, apparent dualism to be the reality. Very good. Thank you so much.
One last question from YouTube. Representing YouTube. Yeah.
One question from YouTube.
Earlier one was from Zoom, now from YouTube.
Yeah, this question is from Jatin Patel. He asks, what do you call consciousness observing objectified consciousness, both internally, thoughts, mind, chitti, etc., and embodied consciousness in flora, fauna, humanity?
Yes. Consciousness observing or experiencing consciousness, not possible. The way we have understood it here, consciousness is pure subject. Notice, when we look at each other, aren't these people consciousness? Aren't you observing consciousness? As he says, embodied consciousness. But if we look closely, what are we observing? We see the person, the body of the person. We see the behavior of the person. We hear the language of the person. Even the mind of the person we have no direct access to, only if you are a telepath. You can see into the minds of other person, but nobody can directly objectify consciousness. You can't experience consciousness as an object. This is not an idea understood at present in modern consciousness studies. And I think modern consciousness studies could benefit from this idea that consciousness is not an object. The problem is in our thinking is so scientific, it's scientism more than scientific. Objective and real are taken as synonymous. So if you say something is not objective, immediately somewhere in the mind we think it's not real. Whereas in Vedanta, it's just the opposite. It's the object which is unreal. The subject is the reality. So the consciousness is never an object. Even the embodied consciousness, which we see in human beings, in animals, and all, we are seeing only the effects, the behavior, the language, and the movements, and then inferring, and this is consciousness. Consciousness studies experts are always, when they're studying consciousness in brains, they are always fascinated by octopus, because octopus has a distributed brain. So they're fascinated. We're studying consciousness. Where are you studying it? In the octopus. Now for us, from a Vedantic perspective, that's so funny, because consciousness is directly presented to all of us here. We ourselves, you are consciousness. It's directly experienced all the time, continuously. That's what this book is saying. And now, keeping that aside, I will look into the octopus and try to find consciousness there. There's a reason, a very interesting behavior, very interesting animal, very interesting nervous system. All those are good, but they are objects to consciousness, not consciousness itself. In Bengali, we have a saying, you can hold the nose like this, or you can hold the nose like this, you know. So a lot of modern consciousness studies, because of this, trying to objectify consciousness. And there's a reason why they do it, because scientific method is objectification. Trying to objectify that which is not an object. Trying to objectify the pure subject. That's what leads to so many tangles in modern consciousness studies. First of all, you have to untangle it in the modern philosophy of mind. Then we have to come to actual brain science or artificial intelligence. That consciousness is not an object, and it is real. It's real, but it's not an object. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.